They read the decree at the 9th hour of the session. When the chamber lights had dimmed to that particular shade of amber, the Senate reserved for administrative finality. I remember the color precisely. I have thought about it often in the years since. Senior Delegate Marin Voss, that was my title then, sat alone at the human table. There were 3 chairs at that table. The Senate had allocated 3, as a courtesy, though everyone in that chamber understood the courtesy was performative. Earth had no allies present, had no bloc. Earth was, in the Senate's taxonomy, a Class 4 applicant body with provisional speaking rights and no vote, which meant I could listen to the decree being read, and I could, if I wished, offer a formal rebuttal before the record closed. I did not offer a rebuttal. Presiding Senator Orval of the Keth Directorate, second chair, intercompact, 16 consecutive terms, read the resolution in the flat cadence they used for uncontested business. The Hegemonic Imperial Senate, by a recorded vote of 209 in favor, 11 abstaining, 0 opposed, hereby suspended the provisional membership of the Terran applicant body and issued a formal exclusion decree, effective immediately, pending review in no fewer than 50 standard cycles. The grounds cited were threefold: failure to meet the compact's resource disclosure minimums, unresolved boundary disputes in 4 contested corridor sectors, and the third ground, the one I remember most clearly, what the resolution termed insufficient, demonstrated commitment to collective security architecture. Orval set the document down. He looked at me the way a man looks at something he has already finished considering. I stood. I gathered my folio. I nodded once, not to Orval, not to anyone in particular, but to the room, the way you nod when you are leaving a place you know you will not miss. And I walked to the exit. No one spoke. The doors closed behind me. Outside, in the pale corridor, my aide Hendricks was waiting with my coat. "How did it go?" he asked. "Fine," I said. We did not discuss it further. What I can tell you about the 31 years that followed is this: we were not idle. The Senate's assumption, shared, I would later learn, 209 of its members, was that exclusion was a disciplinary tool. That Earth, cut off from compact trade licenses, compact transit corridors, and compact arbitration panels, would spend a decade or 2 renegotiating on friendlier terms, accepting the disclosure minimums, seating the corridor sectors, and returning, as a chastened applicant body, grateful for reinstatement. The assumption was reasonable given their data. The data was 31 years old, by the time anyone checked it again. What the Senate had classified as insufficient commitment to collective security architecture was, from our side of the table, something specific. We had no interest in the compact security architecture because we had spent preceding decade building our own. Not loudly, not in any of the corridor sectors the Senate was watching. The Senate had border monitors in 6 approaches to Terran space. We knew about all 6. We had been routing traffic through 11 others. The Sovereign Terran Dominion, that was the name we settled on in the 4th year of the exclusion, was formalized by charter in year 7. By year 12, we had absorbed 4 non-compact systems whose governing bodies had, for their own reasons, no interest in compact membership. They came to us. We did not recruit. We offered the same terms to each: judicial autonomy, mutual defense, open transit, a single shared currency standard, no resource disclosure minimums, no corridor sector arbitrations, no 50-cycle review cycles. By year 20, we had 11 member systems. By year 28, 19. The Senate did not notice, or if it noticed, it filed the growth under a classification that did not require a floor session. I was told, later, by a retired compact archivist who had the professional conscience to be embarrassed about it, that the Dominion had been logged as a regional economic cooperative in the Senate's active database, the same database that still listed Earth's status as exclusion decree pending review. The fleet was the last thing we formalized, and deliberately so. A fleet announced too early is a provocation. A fleet announced at the right moment is a statement of fact. We spent 8 years building it in the quiet of the Dominion's interior systems, where the Senate's monitors did not reach, and we said nothing about it to anyone. There is a particular discipline in saying nothing. I had learned it in that amber-lit chamber, On the day Orval set his document down and looked at me the way a man looks at something he has finished, considering, I carried that lesson home and gave it to everyone who needed it. The engineers, the admirals, the member system governors who sometimes grew impatient and wanted to send a communique. To announce, to be recognized. Not yet, I told them. Not yet. The 50-cycle review came due in the 31st year. The Senate, to its credit, remembered it existed. Clerk sent a formal notification to the Terran diplomatic address on record. The same address we had maintained, unattended, for 31 years, receiving their notifications and filing them without response. I composed my reply personally. It was 4 sentences. I informed the Senate that the Terran applicant body no longer existed as such, that Earth now governed as a founding member of the sovereign Terran Dominion, that the Dominion wished to open formal contact with the Hegemonic Imperial Senate regarding the status of the 6 corridor sectors previously in dispute, and that a Dominion delegation would present credentials at the Senate's convenience. Reply from the Senate's protocol office took 11 days. It requested clarification on the term Sovereign Terran Dominion, as it did not appear in any recognized registry. I wrote back 2 sentences. I suggested they update their registry. I named 19 member systems, each with coordinates. The session they convened to receive us was not the amber-lit administrative hour. It was a full-floor session, formal lighting, all 220 seats occupied. They had added 11 seats since my last visit. New member bodies, admitted in the years we had been absent. I walked in alone. The Dominion had offered me a full delegation, advisors, attaches, a security detail. I declined all of it. 1 person, 1 folio. The same posture I had carried out of that chamber 31 years ago, reversed. Presiding Senator Orval was not present. He had retired in year 19. His successor was a younger Keth, Directorate Senator Fayan, who had the careful expression of someone who had been briefed extensively and was still finding the briefing insufficient. I placed the folio on the table. Inside, it was a single document, the Dominion Charter, ratified by all 19 member governments, the full survey of Dominion-controlled space appended as an index. Fayan looked at the document. He looked at me. The chamber was quiet in the way that large rooms become quiet when something expected has not happened and something unexpected has taken its place. Corridor sectors, he said. The 4 that were in dispute are inside Dominion space now, I said, along with 9 others. He looked at the index. He looked up again. Through the dome above the chamber floor, the glass caught the light of what I knew was positioned there. 11 Dominion vessels in a standard diplomatic formation, close enough to be visible, far enough to be unambiguous. Not a threat, a fact. We would like to discuss, Fayan began. Terms of. We're not here to discuss terms, I said. We're here to introduce ourselves. The session lasted 40 minutes. We answered the questions we chose to answer, and left the rest in the silence where they belonged. When I walked out through those same doors, the same corridor, the same pale institutional light, Hendricks was not waiting. He had died in year 14, peacefully, having lived to see the Dominion Charter signed. I stood in the corridor for a moment by myself. 31 years, 19 systems, a fleet they had no record of, in corridors they hadn't mapped, carrying a charter they had no category for. Orval had set his document down and looked at me like something finished. I thought about that, standing in the corridor. Then I put on my coat and walked to the transit dock where the Dominion shuttle was waiting. We had a long way to go. We were not done building.